everybody. It's Wednesday. I'm Lawrence Presman, the Prez, owner of WagerTalk Media, which owns The Gold Sheet, sportsmemo.com, and WagerTalk. And I am excited to have the legend himself, Dave Cokin, on with us today. The most requested guest I have by far, and Rob the Hair Veno from sportsmemo.com. Today's show, we're going to talk one college football game, one baseball game, and two NFL games. I want to bring my guests in, say hello. Dave, how are you, my friend?
Good. Looking forward to today's show. I got some good games to talk about. Hopefully some good ideas on these games.
Rob Veno, I see you didn't shave.
Yeah, it happens quick, Prez. It only takes a couple of days. It's the Italian heritage in me, so, I'll have to get to it tonight.
Hey, Dave, before we get into the show, can I read the email you sent me at 3 a.m., or is that a no?
Highlights, not everything. Well, I was out with some friends last night.
The best part of the email was the desserts. Dave went out drinking and partying like an 18-year-old, like it was 1899. I don't want to say 1999 because you were about 60 then. So I want to give you a little more time. So Dave was out partying last night. I emailed Rob Veno and Dave saying, hey, what games do you guys want to pick? And Dave is like, hey, desserts are illegal in Nevada. Desserts are legal in Nevada. Leave me alone. I need to find a bag of potato chips.
Yeah, that's true. I was rummaging around in the kitchen looking for chips and onion dip. I don't do that much anymore, and I was always a Munchies guy.
It was literally the highlight of my night. That's for sure. Marco is texting me.
The highlight of my night was actually the Mariners losing, clinched my under wins prop bet on them, which I never thought I'd win after they started the season 13-2.
Yeah,
and that was that got clinched last night, so that was nice. And that was a bigger than normal bet for me.
Oh well, congratulations then, and hence the celebration. Rob Veno.
That had nothing to do with it.
Sorry, brother.
That had nothing to do with it. I was meeting friends last night, and I knew I was going to have a good time with this group.
Yeah. Rob Veno, 20-6 college football run. That's better than Dave. It probably, with no disrespect, might not end up better than Dave because he is a college football god. But 20-6 college football run leads us right into our first college football game. The game we're going to talk about today, Texas Tech, plus 27 on the road playing Oklahoma. And sorry, Dave?
I said, wow, that's a big number.
Well, the problem we find right now with teams like Oklahoma, Ohio State, the teams sort of on the bubble of the playoffs looking in, and we see this every year. Clemson can go out and win games by 7 points, 10 points. Granted, they're not. Same with Alabama, but the number 5 and 6 seeds, these guys have to lay the smackdown on teams. So with that said, I'll go to you first, Dave. Is Oklahoma going to show Texas Tech what the Rock is cooking?
Well, they're going to win the game, and they're probably going to win it by a pretty big margin. My number on this is not quite this large, but you're right. You're going to have to pay a premium if you want to bet teams that are just outside the top group. And, look, there has to be an adjustment made here because of the Texas Tech injury situation with Bowman out for who knows how long with the shoulder issue. So it's really dicey at this point. Make a good number on this game. It's going to be high to begin with. And then you factor in the missing Bowman. It's a tough adjustment. So I can't take Texas Tech, but I do think you're paying too much of a premium to back Oklahoma here. But they could win the game by 35, 40 points. That's very conceivable if a Texas Tech quarterback without their starting quarterback, this is a problem for a team that is kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah, and Rob, I mean, Dave is right. The problem I find in this game, and it's somewhat similar to the Ohio State-Nebraska game, is Oklahoma can just name their score. I mean, if they want to go out and win by 27, they can. If they want to win by 35, they can. And if they want to win by 14, well, they'll just slow it down at the end. Real tough game for me to find any value in. What do you like in this one?
Well, back to Dave's original point on his number, mine came up Oklahoma 23.5, which would give us, if that number's accurate, which it should be really close, it would put us under the assumption that Bowman is worth 3.5 points in this number. Now, remember that the backup quarterback here is Jet Duffy. Jet Duffy quarterbacked 3 games last year for Texas Tech. He's a dual threat. He's a different kind of quarterback. Could pose Oklahoma some problems because really the only dual threat that they faced so far was De'Aaron King, the since departed De'Aaron King, in game 1. And Houston ran for over 240 yards against Oklahoma. Now, some of that in garbage time. We have to take that into account. But still, the threat of the dual option quarterback, it may pose Oklahoma a little bit of trouble this weekend. Texas Tech under Matt Wells, a little bit different than the previous regime in that they're trying to work the running game in. The ground game, they a lot more carries the first 2 games. They got out of that against Arizona because they got behind. But they're trying to be balanced the way Utah State was under Wells. I still think 27.5 is too much, guys, because it just leaves the back door wide open for an explosive offense. If Oklahoma's up 34, 48-14, and Texas Tech has the ball, you could see 48-21 at the end of the game and a hook making a difference. So I think I'd probably look toward Texas Tech as far as side is concerned in that game.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I do agree and also disagree on the run-pass ratio for Texas Tech. I mean, the Montana State game, they ran it 40 times and threw it 55, but they were way ahead in that game. The UTEP game, they ran it 31 times, threw it 47, but they were way ahead in that game. I thought in the Arizona game, they weren't that far behind. I mean, and they got back to their old ratio, 25 rushes, 55 passes. I just don't think that's going to work here. I think they've got to run the football more and try and, if you will, shorten the game if they want to stay in it against Oklahoma. And I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't think there's a big difference in power rating the 2 quarterbacks, Bowman and Duffy. I don't think there's a big difference. I think, Duffy can play some. I mean, his numbers last year were, let me just check them real quick here on Duffy. Threw for 68%. The one worry, he did throw some interceptions. He had 6 interceptions, and that's kind of high on 164 passes. So he's not as accurate a passer as Bowman. And if they're going to be relying on the passing game, as it appears they will, I don't know. I just don't know if he's the right guy.
I'm an idiot. You take a look at the we put up the Today Show, what's going on, and I think I had some of that dessert you had because I didn't spell Oklahoma right. Oh my God, but not even close. I'm just going to go with Okla. Yeah, let's just call it that. Fixed. Rob Veno, Dave Cokin. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're right back to talk a little bit of business and then one baseball game and 2 NFL games. Hey everybody, it's the Prez. You're watching Betting Edge. You can find us every day, Monday to Friday on our YouTube channel, WagerTalk TV. We just passed 30,000 subscribers. A massive thank you to everybody for that. I just want to point out that Rob Veno is on an absolute monster college football run. He is in the zone. He is seeing the field. He is reading all 4 options and finding the best one. 20-6 college football run. 20-6 college football run. You can get the next 30 days of all his plays for 50% off. 50% off. Just head over to sportsmemo.com and use the promo code Veno50. It's regular price $325. You get it for 50% off. Business. Real quick, everybody, make sure to watch the NFL presidential address with myself and Ralph Michaels. It'll be up online at WagerTalk TV today. No more Kelly Stewart on that show. She is focused on Bet On It, the one with Gianni the Greek and Marco. Outstanding show, must watch right after you watch mine. And also, Puck Time starts tomorrow. Literally, hockey begins next week, and we're doing 2 big shows tomorrow, both preview shows, Western Conference and Eastern Conference. Dave Cokin, you're not going to be on the preview shows tomorrow, but we need you on Puck Time at least once a week starting next week. Are you good for that?
Yeah, should be fine.
Excellent, my friend. Okay, boys, let's talk baseball. Dave, everybody wants to hear your thoughts. Washington Nationals playing Philadelphia today. Rob Veno chose this game to talk about. We have the home team at -175 with a total of 2. Philly is in a free fall. Lost 4 in a row, 6 of their last 7 games. Washington's won 3 in a row, all against Philadelphia. And really, I mean, Washington's going to be looking to find their rotation right now as they move towards that wild card game. I'll go to you first, Dave Cokin. What do you like in this play?
Nothing. It's not a consideration for me. It's a garbage game at this point. So I'm going to give you 2 games for the weekend. And these will probably end up on my card. On Sunday, final day of the regular season, you've got a really interesting situation at San Francisco where the Giants will close out the Bruce Bochy era. That'll be his final game as they're hosting the Dodgers. That's a good spot. And it'll also be Madison Bumgarner likely on the mound in that game. And it's possible that will be his last start as a Giant because I think there might be some efforts to trade him in the offseason. That's a big emotional spot for the Giants. The game's going to mean nothing to the Dodgers. The other one is, and this you'll have to lay a price in this one, but I think it'll be worth doing. The Orioles and Red Sox. And Eduardo Rodriguez probably will pitch on Sunday, and he will have an opportunity to be the only 20-game winner. That's a big incentive, and I would look for the Red Sox to put their best players on the field in that last game. Again, it'll be a big price. They might want to have to go runs line there, but you're looking for games in the final day of the season that means something, and I think those circumstances will make those 2 games meaningful for the Giants and the Red Sox.
He's Dave Cokin. You can find him at WagerTalk.com. He's 16-6 to start the college football year, 9-5 to start the NFL season. Rob Veno, what do you like in this one?
Well, generally speaking, Prez, over the years, after a team clinches a berth into the playoffs, the obligatory celebration goes on, and you come back the next day and bet the opponent because in the case of these Washington Nationals as well, the party went well into the next.
I think they were actually out with Dave Cokin last night. I recall some of the Washington Capitals were tweeting out that they were looking for potato chips.
You with those guys, Dave?
No, they're a little far. They're a little far away from Las Vegas.
Rob, sorry to interrupt. Go on, brother.
That's all right. Hey, a couple of pictures on Twitter and the timeline show how late that party went into for the Washington Nationals. So it'll be interesting to see what the lineup is comprised of tonight, Prez. I think you could have one of 2 options here. Under 10 runs seems like an option, and the Phillies plus a big price could also be an option. You get Drew Smyly against Anibal Sanchez. Anibal Sanchez has had 3 solid starts. He's a very, very streaky pitcher. When he's horrible, he's horrible. When he gets on a roll, he stays on a roll. Right now, his last 19 innings are a couple of 7-inning efforts, 2.37 ERA, 0.84 WHIP, pretty good numbers. For Philadelphia, they seemed a little bit disappointed in quotes last night, but Bryce Harper was one guy where I took away from his comments that he's going to come to play tonight. So again, I think you could find one of two options here, whichever you like better. Under, big plus price, but the Washington bullpen is extremely taxed, which would be another reason why you would like the Phillies. For the Nationals, in this case, they have only three pitchers that are not in these situations. 3 consecutive days thrown, back-to-back days, which would make it their third day in a row, or in back-to-back with pitching 3 of the last 4, which would make this 4 out of 5. That's a taxed bullpen. Like I say, either or, I would be behind the Phillies plus price or under 10 runs.
He's Rob Veno from sportsmemo.com. You're watching the Betting Edge. I know the graphic still says Morning Joe and the Pro. We're working on that. Guys, let's talk some NFL football. Minnesota. I have on the screen that they're +3 versus the Chicago Bears. That is incorrect. They came out at +3. They are now +2.5, and there's even 2s on the board. There's obviously a lot of money coming in on Minnesota. Rob, I'll go to you first on this game. What are you liking?
Well, it's super important for both sides here, Prez. Let's remember that both teams have lost inside the division already. The Bears lose to Green Bay. Minnesota loses to Green Bay. So 2 division losses in your first 2 division games is not good for either of these sides if things come down to tiebreakers in the NFC North. So you'll get a full focus out of both of these squads for 60 minutes here. I happen to believe that Minnesota is the better side here. Chicago gets half a bit of an edge on the defensive end. We saw it last night against Washington. However, the Washington offensive line is in no way, shape, or form indicative of the offensive line that Minnesota will bring to the game this Sunday. And the Minnesota defense has been tremendous so far this season. So there's not much of a difference between the two. The difference lies on the offensive side. Minnesota with Dalvin Cook has become such a balanced offense. Now, you don't hear a lot about Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, any of the receivers right now. Minnesota hasn't had to utilize them yet. Against the Bears defense, they probably will. That type of balance, I think I would be in favor of supporting here in this game. I can understand the line move down to 2. I still think that +2 or 2.5 you can get out there, so get the 2.5, but I think that's a good price. And I just think what the Bears on a short work week here, let's remember, Monday night game, only have 5 days to prepare. I think a lot of things stack up for the Vikings here, even though both need it just as much. Fundamentally, Minnesota's the better team.
Yeah, and Dave, before we get to you, just real brief from my perspective, I agree 100% with Rob here. I think Minnesota is the better team, and I think what we saw in the Washington game was very telling. Firstly, we saw a very aggressive pass rush from Chicago, especially edge rushers. Khalil Mack had a big game. I don't think they're going to be able to go off like that against Minnesota. For a couple of reasons. One, Minnesota's going to be running inside a lot. And 2, Dalvin Cook is only part of a running game. This offensive line in Minnesota is really good and a hell of a lot better than Washington's. I think Minnesota is going to win this game outright. I don't really believe in the Chicago team. And another thing we saw on Monday night is, Chicago is still struggling to move the ball. I mean, I understand they put up a lot of points against Washington, but 21 of those points came off of turnovers. So I'm with you, Rob. Minnesota plus the points for me. And as Marco would say, sprinkle a little bit on the money line. Dave, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with anything anybody said. But one thing you guys left out of the mix, and I think it does have to be factored in, Kirk Cousins against teams with winning records stinks. He stinks against winning teams, and the Bears are a winning team. He is just not a guy who's come up in big games. He consistently plays his worst football in the games that matter the most. And sure enough, this season, the game that mattered the most so far was at Green Bay, and they did eventually get back in the football game, but they lost it, and they were down big early, and Cousins was not effective when it mattered. And he's going to be facing a very good defense here. I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. So all the good points you make about the Vikings, and it's not putting me on the Chicago side because I completely agree about your assessment of their offense. I mean, Trubisky just cannot throw from the pocket. He's just not good. But Cousins' inability to almost ever win big games is a big red flag to me as far as the Vikings are concerned.
Yeah, very well put, Dave. Next game we're going to talk about is Dallas and New Orleans. Let me set this up real quick. You know, what is most fascinating to me about these type of games is the line came out at Dallas at -3 on the road. A shit ton of bets were made on Dallas. I mean, it was an extraordinary number of actual bets, not dollar amount, but actual bets made on Dallas, yet the line moved to -2.5. What does that tell us? This is a reverse line move, and what that means ultimately is, regardless of the volume of bets coming in on Dallas, the sharp money, the wise guys, the big bets clearly came in on New Orleans. It moved the line to -2.5. Something about this game stinks to me. Rob, what do you like?
Well, we went over this game Monday, Prez, on the Pros versus Joe show. So I will stick to my guns from Monday and probably like it a little more now. I think on Monday on the contest show, we had to use 3.5 as a number because we were using half points to break ties inside the contest. Here we get 2.5 as a better to lay against New Orleans. And I just don't know. You know, for the reasons that I cited on Monday, New Orleans has been outgained tremendously in their last two games. The LA Rams and, of course, the game against Seattle where they were outgained by 250 yards, gave up over 500 yards of offense in that contest. I don't know that this New Orleans team defensively is as good as last year's right now, Prez. You know, I hear a lot about, they've got a pass rush and Dak Prescott hasn't seen a pass rush yet. But Dallas has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Anybody who thinks New Orleans, and even though they're better at home, you got to grant them that. They're a great team inside that dome. But anybody who thinks that they're just going to line up and run over Dallas and get to Dak Prescott, I think is misguided here. The balance in Dallas's offense, to me, is far stronger than what we're going to get out of Teddy Bridgewater. I'm just not a fan of Teddy Bridgewater running that offense. He looks more like what in the NFL they refer to as a game manager than anything else. He doesn't look like a guy that's going to beat you downfield with his arm. They're going to rely on Alvin Kamara. Dallas knows that. We know that. They know that. Dallas' secondary probably as good as it's been in years. I think there's a lot of reasons to like the Cowboys. To top it off, they went into New Orleans in a lesser situation as an underdog last year and defensively shut Drew Brees' New Orleans Saints down and won that game outright. The biggest concern in this game, if you play Dallas, is the fact that the strength of schedule is totally tilted towards New Orleans. We went over this Monday, and Dave, I'd be interested in where your numbers line up as well. But I can say that with my power ratings, New Orleans on average, the teams that they've played are almost 11 points in power rating better. That's an average than what Dallas has played so far, which has been garbage. And that would be your major concern here. You would have to say that Dallas has played nobody. New Orleans has played good teams. But again, outgained big by Seattle. Prez, you went over the situation of how New Orleans scored all their points in that game on Monday's show. Also, the Rams, New Orleans couldn't do a thing. And then they needed a 58-yard field goal as time expired at home to beat the Texans, where they sacked Deshaun Watson 6 times. So I'll stay with Dallas and like them even a little more, -2.5.
Mr. Cokin.
Well, it's early for me, so I have not early in the week, and I really don't do my NFL heavily till Friday night, so I'm not going to lock into a play here. But I will tell you this: you don't want to be going against road favorites in the National Football League right now. They are doing some damage, and the books are feeling it because they're just getting crushed with these. That will eventually turn around because it always does. I'll disagree a little bit on the Teddy Bridgewater assessment. I thought he played a really good game at Seattle last week. I thought he was outstanding in that game. Clearly the best he's looked since that catastrophic knee injury. So some plus signs there. It's a big home field advantage. It's one of the strongest in the NFL. So my initial lean is on the Saints, but I don't want to. I can't even guarantee that I won't end up on the opposite side. I just don't do my NFL till later in the week. College is everything for me Monday through Friday, and so I'll get more to this game on Friday night. But on my initial numbers, I think the Saints can win this game.
You know, guys, real quick, another thing to factor in with New Orleans is the Taysom Hill deal. It's not all Teddy Bridgewater. Taysom Hill does bring an extra edge to that New Orleans offense that Dallas has to prepare for. So that's another argument in the corner for the New Orleans Saints, because it is difficult to prepare for two different style quarterbacks. But 265 yards gained against Seattle just is not going to cut it no matter who's quarterbacking.
See, that's where I this is one where I go against the grain. I just don't put a lot of emphasis on the yards as much as I do as the yardage efficiency. I want teams that are yards per play and points per play, if you will. I want efficient football teams, and New Orleans was really efficient against Seattle.
Yeah, in that game, Dave, to your point, they averaged 5.5 per play. Seattle gained 6.8. Now, Seattle 6.8. Let's face it, Russell Wilson did what they always ask him to do. Seattle digs a hole as deep as they can dig it, and then in the second half, they tell Russell Wilson, okay, we're cutting you loose, go win the game for us. And he didn't almost do it, but he rallied that team with a lot of yardage in the fourth quarter for sure. We'll see how this one ends up. I just don't like the trend of New Orleans being outgained so badly by the last two teams, which were good teams, and the fact that their defense could not hold up in that Houston game, allowing a two-play 75-yard drive with under a minute left when they had the game all but won. So there's some concerns about that defense right now where I stand.
Great point, Rob. Excellent stuff. Dave, Cokin, and guys, that's the end of the show. Just really quickly, make sure to watch the NFL Presidential Address. New format this week. It goes up on Wednesday. It's Ralph Michaels and myself will take apart every single game on the board. Also, make sure to check out Rob Veno at sportsmemo.com. He's on a 20-6 college football run. You can get his next 30 days of plays for 50% off. Just use the promo code VENO50. Check back for tomorrow's show, the Betting Edge. Mid-major Matt and Tony Finn. And hopefully one of a drunk, naked guy running through the screen like we did last week. I'm the Prez. Peace out.